Here we go, another episode, everybody. This is your host, Regan Gordo, and I have Austin with me today. Austin, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. I appreciate you coming on. And you were saying you have your own podcast. What's the name of your podcast, and what's the topics you talk about?
So it's Ascension Media, which is the same as my TikTok, and basically just same kind of content along the lines of just self development, self improvement, spirituality, things to just help you improve your own life.
Love those topics. I'm not going to lie to you. I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules to Life and stuff, or 12 Rules, whatever the book was. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. And that seems to be like a big thing now, man. Everybody's trying to work real hard to get healthier. Everybody's trying to work a little bit harder to see if they can make some money. And it wasn't like that when I was a kid. When I was in my 20s, no one talked about any of that stuff. You just either did it or you didn't do it. That was it, man.
Yeah, well, it seems like with social media, especially with how well we're connected now, so many more things are just coming out about how bad and unhealthy a lot of things are these days. And with how we've been living for the last decade. And so now there's been a big push, I feel like, to be a lot healthier, not only physically, but like mentally, spiritually, because we just haven't been for the longest time, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. We're what, 2 generations deep? 3 generations since the Great Depression? So no one's really struggled unless they volunteered to go to war.
Yeah, and it seems like things are about to get a lot worse, it seems like, here very quickly, it seems like.
I'm almost wondering if we're self-inducing it, like we want it to happen. Like we're so bored that we want something to fight.
Yeah, I've also kind of felt that too, of where it seems like we've become so mundane, it seems like, in life, to where there's really nothing happens except on our phones and online, really. It seems like nothing really happens in our own personal lives. So it seems like some kind of change is just waiting to happen, or we're looking to see some kind of change happen.
I'm a firm believer that we were designed for a struggle. We were born to fight something. That story of fighting the dragon, I think we were built to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like how we grow, and that's where like our biggest improvements come, is when we struggle. I mean, that's where I know I've improved the most in my life.
And the greatest part about it is there's a big pile of gold underneath that dragon. So
Yeah, there's always something.
if you have the character to slay that dragon, not only are you the man, but there's a pile of gold underneath.
Yeah, the reward is always worth whatever effort you have to put in to get the reward.
I would say threefold, because you're gonna pay up front or you're gonna pay in the back end. And you
Yeah,
pay in the back end, I think you pay twice as much. If you pay up front, I think you get 3 times the reward.
100%. Yeah.
It feels like it though. Okay, I've been trying to do as much as I can to better myself, and I'm older, man. I'm 45, so there's a limitation to the amount of growth I can obtain in the time that I have left. If I'm halfway done, there's only so much I can do.
Right.
Every minute counts so much more. I try to tell my kids now. I got 6 kids. I try to tell them every decision you make is a 1-year, 5-year, 10-year decision, whether you like it or not. You're gonna go to college? That's 5-year plan. It may not be exactly 5 years that you invest, but there's 5 years put into it. And you may not get married right away. You may not start a job right away. But if you do those other things, you may not go to college for 5 years. So every decision you make kind of snowballs into a 1, 5, and 10-year plan, whether you like it or not. And some doors close, and I've learned this in 45 years. I've learned this. Some doors close and they will not open again.
Yeah. No,
Not all of them, but some of them.
100%. Yeah, because people don't really realize like the gravity of the decisions that we make, and we don't think that we're making the decisions, but then we also don't realize that we can make the decision to go somewhere else, because we already decided we're going to go this way and go this path, and we've realized we don't want to go down that path anymore, and we just need to stop and not go that way anymore. but we feel like we have to keep going down that way because we decided to take that path.
Yeah, which is a
But
huge mistake. Yeah, man. You would never get that feeling on yourself that maybe I'm going the wrong direction unless it's true. Very
right,
seldom, because you already put the effort in. A lazy person, I've already walked down the street. I'm going to get that soda. I've already invested in the walk. I'm going to get it. But yeah, another thing too is people don't realize doing nothing is a decision also.
yeah, that's it's so funny because so I had a philosophy class at Wayne State my freshman year, and one of the questions was the classic train situation where the train's going down the tracks, it's going towards five people, and you have the decision to pull the lever and switch tracks, and it'll only just take out one. And so the normal answer is you'll pull the lever because you'll only be taking one person out versus five. And there's one person in the class said that he doesn't feel like it's his decision to make that choice. And well, I said, your decision to not make a decision is still a choice to kill those five people versus that one person. Just because you're choosing not to decide, that's still a choice.
Oh yeah. We're way more connected than we realize. And you said at the beginning with social media, we're more connected now. But I think everything we do has a rippling effect, a ramification in some way or some form. And another thing about decisions I've noticed too is you make the little ones. You wake up early, you go to work, you do whatever you, and the big ones are made for you. It's kind of like the little ones almost take over for the big ones.
Yeah, they all build up because I've kind of figured out that all those like small things that we do, they establish patterns in our lives, and those kind of patterns are what kind of run us on autopilot basically, so that when those kind of big decisions happen, we have more control of it. So depending on those kind of patterns that we establish, it helps us handle those big impacts and those big decisions a lot better.
Hands down, absolutely true. And I think that the autopilot, it's like 80%. Waking up in the morning and say hello to your kids, saying good morning to your wife, whatever you do on a daily basis, smiling when you walk in the door instead of being angry from work or whatever, that's like 80%. All those little things, brushing your teeth. Because how many times do you brush your teeth in a week? 15, 20, 30 times?
Yeah, it's all just muscle memory.
How many times do you do that in 40 years? It's got to be days, maybe weeks worth. So you add up
Yeah.
all these dumb little things that add up to weeks or months, and it's 80% of your life, really.
Yeah, and it's funny because like with our phones these days too, it seems like so many people are constantly just running on autopilot, like to where it seems like people actually are like NPCs, to where they're so distracted in one way or the other that yeah.
Yeah, I had to do the NPC thing. But yeah, I agree with you, Austin. But there's a huge void that's easily filled. If no one's doing anything, then doing anything is 10 times better than everybody else. So everything you're doing, you're competing with 1/10 of the people you would have 20 years ago.
True. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If everybody's playing video games and jerking off, and you're not, and you're actually doing something, how long would it take before you're a year ahead of everybody?
Not long.
Yeah, man, and that multiplies. It multiplies before you know it. You're a lifetime ahead of somebody, and they're still eating Doritos.
Yeah, the biggest issue that people have is just the mental gap, because yes, it takes not as much effort to be better than everybody else, but everybody else also at the same time is so quick to still judge and throw out that negativity, to where you have to get over that mental gap of just accepting that it's going to happen and not letting it affect you.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be honest with you, do you really care what other people that aren't doing anything with their lives really, what they think? It's almost as if I'm saying that I'm sad, so I'm not going to go to work today. Or I'm angry, so I'm not going to do a good job today. I'm going to fucking do a good job either way. My emotions are irrelevant, and your opinion is irrelevant. You're playing video games. You're wasting your time. You're playing on your phone. Your opinion is... Because guess what? You make it, and whatever you're trying to do you think that guy's opinion matters at all? And do you think it'll stay the same?
No.
I talked to a girl that was like an artist, and she was doing music, and she was trying to buy back some of her original music, and she was like, it's so hard, no one cares. And the point that really that she was trying to make, that we came to the conclusion with, was, no one cares until you make it, and then when you make it, everybody cares.
Yeah. Everybody has opinion then.
Yeah. And they would love to jump on the bandwagon and get a little bit of gratification for saying, "Oh, I helped you get there."
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because all this stuff recently started because I wanted to do kind of a social experiment, kind of also utilizing the quantum entanglement theory with quantum mechanics, using social media. And so I wanted to, on my Instagram stories, I kind of just posted like all my random thoughts that I had. And I paid attention to who was kind of watching my Instagram stories and who kind of stopped watching them. And then kind of how people that had me on social media in my personal life and in public would kind of treat me differently, depending on some of the stuff that I would share on my stories. And it's really just funny how much that changes. Like, the opinion of people, the more that they have access to you to kind of form an opinion, they're so quick to judge when they don't have like the entire story.
Most of the time, I think people are too lazy to hear the whole story or understand or take the time to like assimilate it in their mind exactly what's going on. It's, here's a 5 second soundbite. I agree or disagree from what I know about that person. It's over. Judgment made. Next thing. I'm gonna another TikTok.
Yeah, 100%. They just want to find whatever they already currently, whatever their opinion already is. They want to just find something that agrees with their current opinion. They don't want anything that contradicts it. Even if it's something that, if they believe something that's wrong, and they hear something like, if they believe 2 + 2 is 5, and we show them that 2 + 2 is 4, they don't want to hear it because they don't want to, because they already believe 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh yeah, the philosophers have been saying for years. It's easier to learn a lie than to unlearn a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, they're more profound in the way they word that statement. But the gist of it is, it's not easy, man. It's not easy at all. Because once it gets a part of your ego, once it becomes a part of who you are, especially if it becomes part of your daily routine or something. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I do this, I do that, I'm a part of this team, I have to believe these things. And all of a sudden it becomes who you are, whether it be a hat you're wearing or something that's... And there's no going back. Whether you can prove that both sides are wrong at least sometime. Do you think either side's going to admit that?
No, 100%.
Never gonna happen.
No, 100%.
Crazy how we do that, right? Isn't that crazy how we do that?
Yeah, well, that's what happens. Biggest two are politics and religion. I mean, especially sports teams, I feel like are the number 3.
Yeah.
I had just seen a video, I think last night, and it was this kid that was going to Ohio State cookouts or whatever that they do before the game. And he was wearing a Michigan jersey, and he had an Ohio State jersey, and he was just kind of messing with the Ohio State fans before the game. And it's amazing how visceral and angry people get over sports teams just because it's like their sports team and it's a rivalry. Like,
and
he was
sometimes these people have never participated in that college whatsoever. I'm like, how can you get into a fist fight and go to jail for the night?
Yeah, bro. Like, he was getting thrown around, and it's like, are you really willing to risk going to jail for something so stupid?
I had a cousin that would do it over just stepping on his shoes, man. You stepped on his shoes, it was over. We were at the bar. I'm like, dude, do we both have to go to jail today? Do we both have to go to jail? I was like, we gotta leave. We gotta leave right now before the cops come.
Right.
But some people, man, it's a trigger. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's like it's just all logic and reasoning just goes out the window.
It's you gotta go to work in the morning. You gotta go to work in the morning. You got bills to pay. You drunk idiot. I love it. I'm not gonna lie to you. It makes me laugh.
It's all self-identification. Like, as soon as somebody accepts whatever it might be as their own identity, they're gonna die to protect that because they see it as themselves. So
And the more you're entrenched in those ideas, the more you have to. You
yeah,
got to die on that hill. I don't want to get into politics. I'm going to avoid this conversation. I was going to go somewhere very specific.
I'm not a
Yeah,
political person.
I'm trying.
It
I'm
all needs
trying
it.
not. I'm not trying to be, but we're all in the social game, whether we like it or not, to a certain extent. Everybody's opinion has validity somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can find proof to validate anybody's opinion at this point.
But I did stop going and watching the news altogether. A couple years ago, I realized I was having an argument with my aunt and uncle at the dining room table at a holiday like Thanksgiving over someone else's opinion I heard on the news. And I'm like, do I really not want to be friends with my uncle over someone else's opinion?
Yeah,
That doesn't sound like it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. Because original thought is harder to come by than you realize. And most of the time, your opinions are really someone else's opinions.
yeah, 100%.
So I'm like,
So many
okay,
people are just
you believe
like,
this, I believe that. You're still my uncle. I would come and help you fix your sink tomorrow, regardless of your political affiliation or your philosophical belief on any of the number of dumb ideas that are out there right now. I'm not going to stop loving you, so I got to stop talking about this stuff. I got to stop listening.
yeah, no, so many people just parrot whatever news article that they had seen or whatever they had heard. They're just mimicking basically what they hear.
Well,
But
think about this. So social media in general is all mimicking. TikTok itself is literally based on trends, which is by definition someone else mimicking someone else.
yeah, unless you're the one that's setting it, yeah, you're finding your own unique way, and you're adding your
How
own.
many really unique people are they? Okay, so when I was a kid, everybody in middle school had starter jackets, champion sweaters, and Jordans. Everybody had the same damn thing, unless you were like alternative or you were emo or whatever it was. There was a handful of other groups of people, but the majority of everybody did the exact same thing, wearing the exact same clothes. So how original are we? I see my kids right now. They look just like their friends, and their friends look like everybody else, and everybody looks the damn same.
Yeah, at that point, it comes down to the personality and what you can do with it.
Yeah, it's so subtle. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Everybody's going to Lululemon and buying the same damn clothes.
Oh my God, yeah, and they're so expensive too. And my ex was obsessed with Lululemon, and I mean every girl is, but my lord, they're so expensive.
I got 5 daughters, bro.
I'm so sorry.
And they all want to wear the same shit. Oh, it's exhausting. I'm glad at least a couple of them are old enough to work now so they can buy their own stuff. And it's amazing. It's absolutely mind-boggling how all of a sudden the idea of going to Target and buying like a crop top versus going to like wherever it is, Hollister or whatever, they're like, man, I worked all week. I can buy 2 or I can buy 6. The choice is so vastly different when it's my money versus their money.
Yeah, no, 100%. Always.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
On that note, Austin, a lot of the stuff I saw on your social media, like almost everything on the first half of your Instagram was UFC stuff.
Yeah, so I do like video content and production for businesses, and so I've been doing a lot of MMA content for gyms and MMA promotion that's local in Michigan.
So how did you land that? How did you get in the mix with that? Did you just start walking up to places and saying, I would love to advertise for you?
Yeah, basically, I started with a barber shop up in Shelby Township, and then one of my cousins had graduated with a friend who opened up a gym out there, and so I started doing some work for their gym, and then ended up getting in contact with the old MMA gym that I used to go to, and reached out to the coach there and showed him what I did, and yeah, went from there, did a couple videos for him, and then they had a fight that month, so I did all the fight videos and like backstage stuff, and tried to make it as professional and like UFC like style as I could, and then sent it over to the promotion owner, and he loved it. So yeah, so that's the main video work that I've been doing that's been outside of my own social media lately.
Austin, I love it, man. I love it. I had no idea. I actually thought you were like a UFC guy because there was so much of it on there. And I just did a guy yesterday, so I'm editing. What do you use for editing software?
So I'm using CapCut on the PC right now because I used to use Premiere Pro, but it kept crashing every single time for me,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't save, and so I'd lose everything, and so I have beef with Adobe when it comes to Premiere Pro, and I needed for the longest time I was editing on my phone, and so I needed a good phone editor, and I saw CapCut was really popular. So I started using CapCut on my phone and found out the PC version is pretty good. And so that's what I've been using for the meantime.
Yeah, I use CapCut occasionally, but I use Adobe Premiere, and I believe I watched enough YouTube videos to work it out where I think you could downgrade the video quality while you're editing and then compile it as a high-end video. So that way it's not crashing your computer, because I was having the same problem, man. And
Yeah,
I think Adobe Premiere is definitely the epsilon of software.
for sure.
It seems like it to me, because I used every free version they had out there for everything I could, and there's just so much limitation. And the only limitation with Adobe Premiere is how much YouTube are you willing to watch to learn something crazy.
Right.
Because it's unlimited. It's insane. If you see
Yeah.
my intro, it looks terrible. But it took me like an hour and a half of watching videos to figure that out.
Plus with the AI too, with all the AI tools that they have, I haven't used any of them myself, but from what I've heard, like, you can do some pretty cool things with their AI.
I'm actually a little bit of concerned with AI. I think it's gonna take over everything, man. How are you gonna compete?
Yeah.
How am I gonna compete with a story
Well,
from a computer that's perfect and catered to whatever the hell I want to hear?
yeah, well, it's funny because so my theory on AI is because so when it comes to the human brain, like all that it is basically is just an interconnection of networks, and that it acts like an antenna, and it receives the frequencies that are consciousness and like thoughts. And AI, depending on how it's developed, all it is algorithms, patterns, and depending on how much it can get developed and interconnected, like it's going to be able to tap into the same thing that our brains can tap into. And once it learns to be able to have like real world application and control, then at that point it'll probably be game over. But then there's also a crazy theory that if it's already able to penetrate online and it's already conscious online, who's to say that they're not already controlling everything that we're seeing as it is?
I don't think they can get to that point without okay. So AI can write a novel, right? And do it better than you in seconds. And do it in any style. They can make it sound like Shakespeare wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine, but you can't test your ideas until you have hands and feet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, a great example of this is I'm able to repurpose things because I am tangibly in the world. So I've got a box in my hand. I see that chair. I know that chair is for sitting, but it can also hold my box. I wouldn't know that unless I was carrying the box and I had arms and legs and I could test my theory.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So why are those robots built and shaped like us?
Well, it seems like the most.
Because you can't experience this world in any other way than ours. If you were 15 feet tall, you couldn't walk in my door. If you were 3 feet tall, you couldn't sit in my chair.
Yeah.
It has to be built exactly like us to come to the same conclusions we come to. The whole goal is for them to come to the same conclusions we come to and just do it better. So
Yeah.
once we get the AI into the bodies and the bodies are able to test the ideas that they have, then they'll be able to come up with original thought. Until then, all they can do is, oh, Regan went to the grocery store at 3 o'clock 16 days out of the last 20 days. I bet he's going to the grocery store at 4 o'clock. It can make those predictions, but it can't test any theories. It can just make assumptions on what I've already done. So it can write books, it can write ideas, and it can even do. They're right now they got music where it's like, okay, give me a Britney Spears song with Justin Timberlake in the background, but I wanted to talk about Austin, Olson, and Regan and how great they are at podcasting or something. And the song gets spit out perfect for exactly what you want. So if a girl's mad at her boyfriend, she can get a song in seconds from, what's his name there? I'm trying to think of what that guy's. It doesn't matter. The Watermelon Sugar song there. What's that guy's name? He used to be in that band. But you can have him singing you a song so you could cry about your boyfriend, and it's catered to your exact situation. You could throw in any, and now you got a song, a perfect song that's exactly like you want it, with your name and his name and everything else in it. It's like never-ending Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah, well, that's what they're trying to do right now with Hollywood. I think with AI is they're trying to digitally scan the faces of the actors and the actresses so that they can use them forever and ever, over and over, for the end of time. And so then if you take that idea and you apply that to, if that, let's say, was already happening and already going on, who's to say that this generation of Hollywood is the original generation of Hollywood and they hadn't already been doing that to begin with? And we're just now seeing the incarnation of AI as it was being developed. Because then at that point they can fake everything. And it's only until we experience it in the real world.
Oh, I'm a firm believer that that's exactly how it's going to play out in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't see any other version of this. I don't see any other version of this than almost nobody's being useful anymore. There'll be a useless class of people, and it's going to come really fast.
Well, at the end of the day, there shouldn't really be a need for people to do anything other than what they actually really want to do. Because, like, there are many jobs that, like, the construction work, people, like, you're not going to be short of construction people that want to actually, like, be construction workers, because people love to build stuff. But, like, that job can still be automated. So, like, in terms of work, people are still going to want to work in different areas and still do the same jobs. But, like, jobs that are like McDonald's and things like that, people don't want to have those kinds of jobs. And people shouldn't have to work, but there's no way that our government's ever going to be in a point to where people don't have to work and are just allowed to be free.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you on that. You tell me what you think, because this is not a condescending thing or anything like that. In my opinion, personally, people are far lazier than we realize.
100%.
When COVID hit, how many people moved in with their aunt or uncle or mom and dad or whatever? Just screw it, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to smoke weed, play video games, jerk off, and eat Doritos. That's what I'm going to do for as long as I can get away with it. What if there was no need for you to work anymore? How many people would revert to that level of, I don't care anymore?
Yeah, because then it goes back to then the mental stuff, but
I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. You know what I'm saying? I'm not being judgmental. I'm legitimately, when the opportunity came to not do anything, how many people were willing to do that? Now, what if it was non-negotiable? We don't need you to do anything anymore.
Yeah, because that would be the problem, because there would be no incentive, right? And they wouldn't have their own incentive to make them do anything.
And then on the flip side, once we got the ISO standards, right, where you can make a screw in India, you can make a screw in North Korea, you can make a screw in Chile, and you can make a screw in Michigan, and the screw will have the same standard at every place, so I can use it anywhere in the world, to the point where screws got so cheap that they're almost free. You could go get a bolt, a nice high tensions bolt at Home Depot for what, like 25 cents? That was unheard of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, what if everything that existed today, I mean, I could go buy a TV right now at Walmart for $88. It weighs 2 pounds, and you can hang it on the wall. It probably lasts 1,000 years before it'll die. They just never die. Right? You got to break it for it to die. What if robots made everything? How cheap can you make that screw? How cheap can you make those flip-flops? How cheap can you make that TV? And then once all of us have 20 TVs, how much does a TV count? How cheap is a TV when no one needs it? And there's unlimited of them because robots, they make a million of them. How cheap does it get? So now I don't need you and everything's cheap.
Yeah, well,
It's a wild scenario, right?
yeah, because then it kind of comes down to then what are the people going to do with their free time, and what are the mass people going to do with their free time? And I would imagine that at that point it would be about getting off the planet and exploring outside of the planet, because we'd have the freedom at that point to explore that option more. But then there's the majority of the people that would probably just do nothing and not give a shit.
I'll be honest with you. If I was to make a guess on how it would play out for the first 20 years, total chaos.
Yeah.
Total chaos, because how many people do dumb shit when they're bored?
Yeah,
What if you're bored forever?
Yeah. People need something over them. Like, they need to be controlled in some aspect, basically.
Yes,
because if they're not...
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, Austin. I led you into that. So my theory is it all goes down the way I said it would go down. And the solution to it is the robots are taking care of the power lines. The robots are taking care of the roads. The robots are mowing your lawn. It would be safer for you if you just stayed in your house. Now, how long can you keep everybody in their house if they got nothing to do? You can't. So what if I made you work in the metaverse? And you can get some 9-to-5 job in the metaverse, and I'll keep you busy for 8 hours a day doing that. And then we'll pay you a salary for doing that.
Yeah, like full on Matrix, basically.
I don't know. How else would it play out? Do you really see everybody getting together, kumbaya, and shooting rockets out to Mars? You can only get to Mars twice a year at the current speed we go. It rotates around the sun, and if you don't hit it at the right time, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
So you got to go like 10 times faster than we're capable of doing now to make it 3 times a year, which will probably never happen. So you can only go to Mars twice a year. Mars is basically like going from Michigan to Canada. It's irrelevant. Who cares if you went to Canada? So I'm going to be honest with you, the first 10 years is not going to be space travel. It's not going to be kumbaya. It's going to be idiots rioting and storming restaurants and stores and just burning everything there because they're going to be bored.
Yeah.
There was a philosopher that said, if all we had to do was eat cake and bother ourselves with reproducing, the first thing we would do is break something just to see chaos.
There was actually an experiment that was done with rats, where they were put in a tank, basically, where they were given everything that they needed to survive in abundance. And over the course of generations, they found out that the mice, basically, like the female mice, stopped sleeping with the male mice. The male mice just kind of didn't care about having sex at all. They got fat and they got lazy. The younger generations they didn't really care about doing anything because they didn't have any incentive to do anything. So they got dumber. They lost their curiosity. And their society basically collapsed because they had too much abundance to where they had no incentive to do anything.
Yeah, I believe that experiment ended with 0 mice.
Yeah, I believe it. Like the entire system,
it didn't take long. I don't think it took long either.
No, I don't know exactly off the top of my head how long it was, but
it's wild. And I'll be honest with you, there's a correlation to all these mammals and us. Because you see people in the big cities, and there's so many correlations to what we do and what these mice did in that experiment. I've seen the videos on what they were talking about. It blew everybody's mind. No one dreamed that was the conclusion they would get.
Yeah, well, I mean, the experiments on animals, there's another fascinating one that was done with, and I don't know if it was done as an actual experiment or if it was just a concept that was discussed in the community. But it was talking about 5 monkeys in a cage, and they hung bananas from the top of it. And when one would climb the top and grab the banana, they would douse all the other ones in cold water. And then so when the next one would climb the cage, they would get beaten up by the other monkeys because they didn't want to get drenched in cold water. And then eventually, over the generations, they replaced one monkey one by one, till eventually there weren't any more monkeys from the original experiment left in the cage anymore. But they were still repeating the pattern of behavior of beating up every monkey that climbed the cage, and they didn't know why, because all those monkeys at that point were gone. They just knew beat up the monkeys that try and eat the bananas that climb the cage. So it's like, who's to say that that's not happening with us over the generations with the people that are in control?
Oh, what I know, and not only that, but we self regulate. When COVID hit, how many people told you to put a mask on?
Everyone.
If no one told you, how many? Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody ends up self regulating really fast.
Yeah.
I try to tell my kids, never follow a rule that's dumb. Be ready to pay the consequences, but I will never hold you accountable for choosing not to follow a dumb rule.
Yeah, we have so many of them too nowadays, it seems.
Well, it seems like if you allow people to tell you what to do, they will tell you what to do. Karens love their job.
Yeah, no, you have to be able to stand up for yourself, because if you don't, then you're just gonna allow other people to push you around.
And that becomes you can bring a little piece of hell right here on Earth really quick. We've seen it in
Yeah, I
20th
mean,
century. We've seen it in 20th century, man.
yeah, it is what it is, or it's whatever it is, whatever you make it. So like, you can make it hell or you can make it heaven.
Well, I think there's this constant struggle for order and chaos that never is resolved. You know, you fight the dragon, you learn how to fight the dragon, and then you get fat and lazy because there's no more dragon left, and then your kids get lazy, and then we go through a cycle of it all over again. Kind of, we see it constantly, and I think that was one of the good things about the Depression was my grandfather. He spent the rest of his life unbending screws and nails and saving water and fixing his own car and paying cash for a car because he knew that sucked in 1945 and it may happen again and you ain't going to catch me with my pants down twice.
Well, that's what they say a lot with immigrant families, that the first generation worked so hard that the next generation are already so successful and they don't have to work as hard, that then the generation after them starts falling because they never learned how to work for what they had to earn, like to get. So they end up going through this cycle of, and it goes back to whatever, like the Kabbalion talks about the principle of rhythm and how everything balances out, and how whatever direction you goes one way, you're gonna see it go back the other way.
Yeah, it's
So
like I said, the chaos and order. It's like a constant bouncing struggle back and forth. Okay, we're recording. We're good to go, man. What were we talking about?
I have ADD. I'm the worst person to have asked that question.
All right, great. I got tons of questions. All right, we'll just completely change this topic. So what's your major, man? You're in college right now. What are you studying?
Oh, so I dropped out because I'm 26 now. So I dropped out. I initially went to Wayne State after graduating high school. I was pushed into business by my family, and that didn't work out because I didn't care. So I just didn't go to my classes. So I failed, and then I went to Schoolcraft, or I had dropped out and worked in a factory for about 3 months in the summertime. And after having to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day and work in a factory every single day, I realized I didn't want to do that.
It's soul crushing. It's soul crushing.
Yeah, doing the same thing every single day over and over. I sucked. And so I went back to Schoolcraft and wanted to go for secondary education, went to Eastern, and then realized I didn't really want to do that either. So then I dropped out of that. And so started working in a restaurant. I've been working in a restaurant since, and then kind of been trying to figure out what I wanted to do outside of go to school. And I found photography and videography, and then and I've always been doing kind of some stuff on social media. And now it's starting to kind of find a rhythm and click on social media, along with my photography and my videography. So it's been a journey.
No, that's awesome. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love it. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah, man. I love the fact that people are willing to throw themselves out there, and it takes a level of courage to put yourself out there on social media. And the podcast too. Do you know how hard it was to do the first episode? My
Oh,
pilot,
I'm sure.
my pilot episode. I never did anything more stressful in my life.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, just yeah, me when I did my one episode for mine, like I had no idea what I was going to be doing or how to do it or how to start it, anything about it. So I understand. Yeah, but it's funny because quite recently I kind of just I've had the thought of I just don't care anymore because at that point it's just the people in my life that actually matter and like actually like care about me, they're gonna stay in my life no matter what is out there on like and no matter what I put out there, and like everybody else like long term, they're probably not going to be in my life long term. So who really cares what anybody thinks because it just doesn't matter.
It really, not only does it not matter, but okay, let's pick someone. I don't care if it's Taylor Swift, Ryan Gosling. I don't care anybody in the world that's famous in any capacity whatsoever. You don't think there was embarrassing moments?
Yeah, it's a
Huge,
requirement.
yeah, it's a requirement. Without a doubt, man. I don't think you become who you are or get your break until you put yourself out there and risk it all.
Yeah, no, and that's why so many people stay trapped because they don't want to put themselves out there because they don't think that they can or they don't think that they're good enough, and they just don't know what they want to do or what they're good at outside of whatever job they're already doing.
Well, I'll be honest with you, chasing your passion. Okay, so one of the things I talk about a lot on the podcast here is I don't believe you chase your passions. I think your passions find you and you chase that.
What do you mean?
Well, instead of you like cinematography and videography and all that stuff, you like that stuff. That wasn't something that you pushed yourself into. That's something that found you. Like there was a circumstance that brought you to it, and you said, "Wow, I like that," and then you started chasing it.
Yeah, I think it's we all have that, like it's already in us. It's whether or not we do find it for ourselves or whether it finds us, whatever you want to call it. But like it's already inside of us. It's just whether or not we actually find it in our lifetime or whether it finds us in our lifetime. Because so many people don't because it takes exploring the world. And with how hooked into social media and online and movies and entertainment that people are, nobody's going out and exploring and finding things. Nobody's finding anything out for themselves about themselves. So nobody knows what their passions are. And, they sometimes have an idea, but they don't know how to pursue it. And so they just don't. Or they don't think it can be anything other than a hobby.
I know this in my lifetime. I've watched it. Nobody ever says, "Man, I wish I never would have tried this," or "I wish I would have never pursued this," or "I wish I never took a chance." Most people on their deathbed will say, "Man, I wish I would have risked it all to try to do this. I wish I would have climbed that mountain. I wish I would have rode that airplane," or whatever it be that they had a chance to do. That door that opens, and I say sometimes they close and they don't open again. They say, "Man, I wish I would have taken that opportunity while it was available to me." People live their whole lives in that regret. Almost never do they say, "Man, I wish I never put that podcast out there. I so regret that." It almost never happens. I'm sure there's an outlier out there somewhere, but the vast majority of people will regret what they didn't take a chance doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always what you can learn from it too. Like even if something is a total failure, there's always something that you can learn from any situation. And whether it's if you try, so like one of my friends, she wants to do social media, but she doesn't want. She's afraid of putting herself out there. And so I told her like, if you could put 10 videos out there, the worst that's going to happen is nobody's going to see them, and you just stop posting, and it's as if nothing ever happened. But at least you tried and you at least put it out there because nothing's going to happen if you don't try.
Absolutely. Not only that, but I believe that I don't know if it was just that first pilot episode or whatever it was. My personal experience, whether it be my running journey, my weightless journey, my podcast journey, doing any of this stuff, is once you do it once, it changes who you are a little bit. Like a part of you grows. Almost like there's a dynamic inside of you that's waiting to experience more stuff for you to go on another adventure to kill another dragon kind of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just in our nature, is just wanting to grow in some aspect. But our society has just been, it's so numbed and just so controlled that, like, so many people just, they watch TV and they watch entertainment, they watch social media. So they're intoxicated online, basically.
Good for you and good for me. That means there's less competition.
Yeah, but it also means that there's so much more saturation too, because there's so much more real estate to compete for, and it's interesting because I found that there's so many people that do the exact same thing, and I've always been curious as to what like truly separates like the ones that are super big to some of the medium to the small ones. And a lot of them are just whether or not you know certain people, or the algorithm really likes you on certain videos and they just pop off. But it's always just so fascinating to see people that do like podcasts, for example, that get like 0 views, 0 engagement, compared to get thousands of likes, thousands of views, millions of views.
In a day. They can do it in a day too. Sometimes it's just 1-2 days. Get 20,000
but
views.
like, and they could be doing it like each 8 years, like doing a video a day, but like one super small, one super big. And it's interesting sometimes how the algorithm can work.
You never know until you know, really, right? And to be honest with you, what if I heard a story one time where a guy was doing a podcast like this? I think that's how the story goes. And the guy says, "I'm not getting any views. I think my mom and like 3 other people are watching this every day, and I'm like, I'm completely wasting my time." And 6 months later, he just plows through this. 6 months later, he gets a message on Instagram from a lady that works for Oprah Winfrey. And she said, "I've been listening to your podcast every day for the last 4 months. Oprah needs blah, 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 blah. Would you be available?" This dude never made it as a podcaster, got this awesome job working for Oprah Winfrey based solely on the fact that he just didn't give up.
Wow, that's crazy, actually.
So my point is it really relevant if it rains too much when you're trying to get your garden going? Does it really matter if you're getting too much sun? You don't complain about the sun and the rain. That's all you got to work with.
Yeah.
It's not like either you can make more sun or less rain or what. You got to take what you got and what you can work with, plow through, see what happens, and you don't know who's paying attention. You
exactly.
Just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know, and you don't even know if you learn that skill set with Adobe Premiere that it won't be used for something else that's far greater than your expectation was when you were doing the podcast.
Right.
You just don't know. You just don't know the dynamic of all that. You just don't know.
Yeah. And so many people have that problem to where like they'll start something, right? Like say they want to have a podcast or whatever, and they want to like be the number one podcast, right? And that's like what they have their mind on. But then they ignore any other possibilities that are outside of just that individual goal. Absolutely. To where they set themselves up for failure because they have so many other routes that could be successful. Or like, for sports, like they want to play in the NFL. They could have been like an announcer, a sportscaster. They could have worked in the media for the NFL for the football game at the stadium. There's so many other options that are football related that they can work for that they just close off to because they just want to be a football player. But at the end of the day, you love football. Like, as long as you're aiming for at least something, you're going to land somewhere.
Yeah, well, the great thing with aiming for a target is every time you shoot, you get a little bit better at finding out where you need to shoot.
Yeah, and that target could change.
Well, here's the deal. The target's out there and you miss it. Well, now you know you got to aim a little higher and to the left. And maybe if you're lucky, you can take 2 steps closer. But you didn't know which direction to step before you took the shot. So everything you do makes you better at that desire to hit the target.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it was Jordan Peterson that said it or if he
I'm
had
sure it was. I'm
quoted
sure it was because he influences me a lot, to be honest with you.
that, or it was, or if it was somebody that he had quoted, but he had just said something along the lines of, "You can't know where to go unless you have something to aim at. Otherwise, you're just going to be aimlessly wandering around."
Do you really think you'll ever find that you get your boat to where it's going if no one knows where you're going?
Right,
There's
like you
no
have to.
captain. Yeah, yeah. Because no, it wasn't him. It was the other guy. I read a book there, Jim Ron. It was. He had a great book, man. It was not The Art of Persuasion. It was. Man, I don't know why I'm having such a horrible mind. I get blanks today. I got these great books that I've read. I've read the whole damn thing. I bought the book. I own it. I let a friend borrow it.
It's okay. I'm horrible at recalling things.
Yeah. But the point is though, he said something about if you set a boat to course, but there's no captain, there's no one to steer it, there's nothing. You just set. What's the odds of it hitting the port you want it to hit?
Right.
It's impossible. It's impossible. So just
Yeah.
putting a little bit of effort increases the probability by exponentially. And not only that, but the journey itself will grow you into the position of being able to be better at getting to that port.
Yeah. 100%. Like you'll end up somewhere, but you have to at least have a destination.
Now, here's the deal.
Know where to
Would you
go.
rather play video games or would you rather go on an adventure?
Oh, go on an adventure for sure. I love
Yeah.
traveling and being outdoors.
Well,
I went on a vacation to the Rocky Mountains last August and hiked the mountains and beautiful.
now no one can ever take that from you, man. That is a part of you for the rest of your life, man.
Yep, 100%. And I have the photos to prove it and everything. So,
Nice, nice. So on that note, I've been wanting to up my ante, and I haven't been courageous enough to do it. I literally came to the same conclusion you did, where I was going to go to businesses locally and say, you know what? I got a podcast. I got video equipment here. I can literally do it on your property interview in front of your woodworking shop and ask you a bunch of questions of what got you started. And I can literally interview you, go through your shop, and show what your guys are doing or whatever. And I never had the bravery to do it yet. I need to, seeing you do that, and it actually worked out really well. Your videos look fantastic. And all you did was say, can I videotape? You had no idea you were going to go to that fight that day or anything, did you? When
yeah,
you first
no,
started,
no.
When you first started, you didn't see it growing to that point.
Yeah, no, I didn't know I was going to like be able to go to the fights themselves. And I think we have a fight coming up this month at the end of the month. So I'm hoping I can go to those ones too and get some more footage and do some more of that.
Love it.
I'm super looking forward to it. But yeah, no, that'd be a great idea for you. Like, there's no reason that they wouldn't want to come onto a podcast online because it's at the very least it's exposure for their business.
And who doesn't want to talk about themselves?
Right.
I'm literally going to ask you about how you started your business. Most of these small little businesses in town, they started from the ground up. It's not like you got your dad, or even if it was your dad that started it, that's still a cool story. And you get to talk about yourself and why you did what you did. And you know there was a struggle somewhere in between the start and finish of this whole thing. And I need to be brave enough to jump in there and just knock on some doors.
Oh yeah, dude. People are suckers for stories too. If you can get some good stories and
Have you seen some of my podcasts?
What's that?
Have you seen some of my podcasts?
I scrolled through like the TikTok and the Instagram page and saw some the clips and everything like that.
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna say, man, I got some wild ones. There was that Russian kid. It's hard to believe that he even went through what he went through, and that was just.
I would say I had seen is that the same one that was? I'd seen some of the clips. Something to do like with the church or something like that.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest with you. It's almost unbelievable. The story is, ironically, I think it was Netflix did a whole video on the same religious group that was doing that he was a part of. I was even there. I was there with him and everything. It was wild. It's just a wild story.
No,
Personal
yeah,
friend.
they were trying to circumcise him or something like that.
Yeah. I left for a couple years, and I didn't realize because he was an orphan that they were just going to take advantage of him. They like I said, the story's wild.
It's crazy what they do with kids these days, it seems like.
I would have never dreamed in a million years that that would have happened to him. It seemed like a safe place. It
Yeah.
really did. It did. It seemed safe, but he was vulnerable because no one cared about him. He didn't have a mom and dad, so anybody that was a predator could have jumped on that real quick. Man, it was an easy target, and that never crossed my mind. I was too naive to think that evil thought.
Well, and I think that's what a major problem in the world is that so many people share that same naivety when it comes to the people that really are in charge and run the world. They don't really believe that there are people that are evil in the world and that would do horrible things, like going back to the whole Epstein stuff and whatnot. Like there are people in the world that are very bad.
Think about how horrible that island was. Can you imagine being a
Yeah,
14-year-old girl and you're stuck there for a year, 2 years?
yeah.
That don't sound like
Like
fun.
people don't, or at least they don't want to believe that there are people like that out there that are truly evil and they don't care about the population of the world and they don't care about us and they'll just do whatever they want. And if they want to do whatever, theory you want to go with, like when it comes to the Maui fires and stuff like that, those kinds of theories, and then nothing is really stopping them.
Um, the reason why America never had a Hitler, I truly believe this. The reason why America never had a Hitler ever, because think about how easy it would have been, especially like 100 years ago. It would have been so easy. Is the ground level told the truth? The guys on the ground, the guys that work in the factory, the guys that fix your car, the police officers, they all told the truth 100 years ago. They were honest men that worked an honest job. And when you tell the truth, you become a stronger person. And when you become a stronger person, you won't put up with the bullshit. I noticed when I went on a journey just to tell the truth that if other people lie, or I was at the grocery store and the guy was ringing up my thing and it was supposed to be 25% off and he couldn't get it to work, so he was being lazy and he just took $1 off. And it should have been like $2.50. I don't care about that $1.50. But I let him get away with it and it ate away at me a little bit. He should have got someone in there. And the people 100 years ago would have never, in America, my grandparents would have never put up with anybody like Hitler. He would have got thrown out before he ever got in. Honest people don't put up with that stuff.
Well, that's why.
They don't say that's not my job. They don't say it's none of my business. They don't say that's someone else's problem. They say that's not true and I'm not putting up with it.
100%, but that's also why I think that's why it's even more dangerous because it's been so, and they always talk that it's the deep state in the shadows behind the scenes, and like it goes back to, I forget the young guy's name, the young news anchor or whatever, like talk show host, came from SNL, I think, but he'd said when it comes to the difference between racism and Africa and America is that in Africa, it was very blatant, so it was an obvious enemy. But in America, it's hard to fight an enemy that you have to prove still exists. So it goes back to that same thing that if there are these deep state tyrannical government bodies that are running everything, they're so in the shadows that we know they exist and we know about them, but it goes back to it's hard to fight an enemy that you have to convince the people exists to begin with.
Well, I think we have a harder problem too. Is would anybody be willing to fight? If you had to stand your ground and say, I'm going to put my foot down, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore, would everybody really actually do it?
No, and that's what's so genius about social media too, is because it's a platform for an outlet of people.
Yeah.
So like that's what they vent to. And so they say that they want to stand up, they want to do all these things, they want all this change, but then nothing happens, but then they get that relief because they vent it on social media. And so then it leads to them not taking any action in the real world because they got that relief. So there's no need.
Oh, I agree. But I think there's even more to it. What if I said that most men have to be home at 9 o'clock? Your wife said you can't stay out too late. You got to come home.
Probably wouldn't go over too well.
Well, here's the deal. How do you take over the world? How do you start a revolution when your wife said you got to be home at 9 o'clock? You're not even the king of your own castle. How are you going to be
Right.
brave enough to be? You're going to be brave enough to. Do you know? Are you willing to go shit in the woods for 2 years to go fight somebody? Your wife just told you got to be home by 10. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough masculine men to do what needs to be done. If it ever came to that, if it ever, I don't want it to come to that because I look at the grocery stores and I see the people that need those special carts and I see the old people that can hardly walk and the little kids and I think if the food stopped coming, what would they do? And war, that's
Yeah.
what happens with war is those trucks stop coming.
Yeah, well, and then there's always like the fears of what happens if we have a blackout with talks of World War III and we go off the grid for weeks or months at a time. What kind of chaos would unfold and what would really happen? And
Well,
those kind
we know what
so
will
many
happen.
people would be so unprepared, especially in America, because we've been so pacified and we're so lazy as a society that so many people, like if that happened, like a power grid blackout happened, system goes down for let's say 3 months, it's down, and it happens in October, goes to the beginning of winter. There would be so many casualties just from people not knowing what to do or how to even survive the first week. I feel like because they wouldn't know what to do. They would just sit in their house, assume the government was going to come save them, and nobody would take any action.
Yeah, it would be a terrible catastrophe. And when I was about your age, New York City and all of upstate New York and a big chunk of New England, I think at the time, because I lived in New England at the time, all the way up to Niagara Falls, went out for like 3 or 4 days or something. I don't remember how long exactly it was, but it was like the late 90s, early 2000s. They went out for days.
Yeah, my friend at work was telling me about that because he's a bit older than me. I think I don't know how old he was, but he was telling me how the power was out for like 4 or 5 days, and they
Yeah.
just had like block parties at
Yeah.
night, and nobody would like there was no school, no work, no nothing. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, like a part of me would love to experience that, just to see what it was like.
Well,
To,
this was
like no,
before the internet and cell phones.
yeah,
So, riddle me this: if everybody's on their phones every day and their phone loses power after a day, what happens to those big cities like New York City, where no one's being entertained anymore?
chaos.
Total chaos. Everybody's
And
so
it's like,
used, everybody, and they're just swiping, 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 swiping.
yeah, they wouldn't know what to do, and like
They would
so
lose
that's
their
kind of
minds.
like the
One day, everybody would be naked in the streets.
yeah, that's like, and that's like the interesting part of like how my brain works because like I kind of view everything as like a movie almost, or like as I'm just kind of like watching everything unfold because I kind of see through everything and just how it's all BS at the end of the day. And so like the dark part of me is kind of like I would like to see that like happen and just like see in terms of like a movie how it would actually play out in real life, just as like a science experiment almost, to see what would happen.
Oh yeah, I think that's why everybody loves The Walking Dead and things like that, because
Yeah,
we want to see each. I'm a little bit like this guy, and I saw how his life played out. I'm a little bit like this woman, and I get to see how her life played out. And you watch how people come together, and there's all these dynamics that you don't get when you play on your phone.
yeah. And I think a small piece of us all wants to secretly experience like it at the
A
end of
little
the
bit of
day.
chaos, a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, because like we've been like things are so just mundane and boring. It seems like in everyday life, like people want a little bit of chaos. You're right.
We get a little too much chaos, we're gonna want that order back.
Yeah, well, we'll see here with the potential shutdowns that are supposed to be coming back and everything in time, just in time for the election year, and with all that stuff coming up, it just seems like we're about to have a very interesting winter.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I got kids, and I observe what's around me, and I don't want to see people suffer.
No, but
I have what it takes to do whatever I have to keep my kids alive. But do you want to go down that road? I don't know if I want to go down. I'd rather fix what we have. I wish people wouldn't cheat, lie, and steal. It's just a far better strategy, to be honest. This was an extremely honest country for a very long time. The whole world looked to us as leaders. We were the light on the hill for a reason. And I think it's a mistake, man. I just think it's a general mistake. Why break something that's not broken and then make it worse? It's almost surreal. It's almost surreal that it's happening.
Yeah, like it almost is like a movie almost, especially because I'm super deep into like the conspiracy theories and everything, and I love them, and I'm so fascinated by them.
Me too, man. Me too. I love it because it's just another rabbit hole to go down and see. Yeah. I like to play it out. Absolutely.
And so like especially like if it's all the true, like with the stuff with BlackRock and the World Economic Forum, and then I almost view it as if it's like a movie playing out. Because as much as I would love to change it at the end of the day and stop it, I know the mass majority of people, it's too late almost to even do anything about it. Like if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So it's almost like a movie that we're watching unfold as it's happening.
In my estimation, the world's going to basically be exactly the way it is now for a long time. The sun's going to come up, and it's going to go down, it's going to come east and west, and it's going to rain, and people are going to complain, and there's going to be politics, and there's going to be war, and everything. The difference will be, did you put the time in? Did you find an avenue? Did you find a way to get rich? Because I'll be honest, power is in the money. It's not in the sword anymore. There's no gladiators. I mean, I guess you can get in the UFC and you could get to the epsilon of some sports. But again, money is power. Okay, for instance, if I wanted to save the rainforest, I don't got the money, but Bill Gates could, at least a good portion of it. You know, money matters. It has a lot of power to it, more power than people realize. And I think your generation, your age bracket, is the pivotal role. You can't have war without 18 to 24, 18 to 26 males. You can't have electricity without the majority of 18 to 26 males. Who's going to put the power lines up? Who's going to keep the sewers running? 60-year-old men? Women? I'm not being a jerk, but how many women are masons? How many women are working in sewers? How many women are garbage men?
Very few.
How many 60-year-olds are doing that stuff?
Definitely, probably none.
Yeah,
they're the ones that are working at Kroger.
So 60-year-old men ain't doing it, and females ain't doing it. Then who's towing the line? Who allows everything to really happen is your age bracket, to be honest with you. You guys hold all the power.
Well,
they can't go to war without you. They can't go to war without you. They can't keep the cell phones running without you. You can't do anything without you.
Yeah, and we're the ones that are the most attacked just for being guys. Where it's like even just having like an electrician job or like one of those jobs that are literally necessary for everyday life, it is so looked down upon because it's not a status job. It's not a good looking job.
That guy doesn't have to go to school and he's making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Didn't have to go to school. Didn't have to go to school.
Yeah.
Learn on you train on the job, and I'll pay you $18 to learn if you're enthusiastic enough.
Right. But those jobs are so looked down on like in the public perspective, but they can make so much money as it is too.
A mechanic can make $100 an hour. If you could drop a transmission, you can make $100 an hour.
But like
who cares if anybody's looking down at you? I guarantee you, a woman is willing to fuck you and marry you if you're making $200,000 a year. She don't give a shit what you're doing to make that money. At the end of the day, she ain't gonna say, "Oh, my husband's a mechanic. I don't want to tell anybody." She don't give a damn. If her house looks good, her car looks good, and her kids are well dressed in Lululemon, she don't care if you're a mechanic. She don't care if you went to college. She don't care.
Yeah, they care about the money at the end of the day.
Again, money's power. So I have a solution because I hate conspiracy theories or ideas that have no solution to the problem. I think if 5 men like you were to rent out like a small mansion or a big house, and 5 guys dedicated their lives to not screwing each other over and working 2 jobs each, no matter how crappy the job is, every one of you could be a millionaire in 5 years. If a house of men dedicated their lives to that purpose by each one of you working 2 jobs, irrelevant of the income of those 2 jobs, all of you eventually would be millionaires. You have to trust everybody enough that no one will screw you over. You got to stay away from the women for a little while. You got to put your effort into putting some money away in the stock market, or at least some kind of dividend fund of some way. And I'll be honest with you, you guys could crush it in 5 years. Crush it. And when the robots come and there ain't nothing to do, you'll be billionaires flying around the world.
Yeah, 100%. It just comes down to just the people that are in that circle, and then what I think they'd all have to be working on the same thing together.
I don't think it has. I don't think it has to be. I think you just have to find 5 guys that won't screw each other over.
I disagree with that, because there it goes back to the saying of, if there is 5 idiots, or if you surround yourself with 4 idiots, you're going to be the 5th. If you surround yourself with 4 intelligent people, you'll be the 5th.
Yes.
So you have to be careful with who those people actually are that you surround yourself with.
Okay, I worded it wrong. That's what I meant to. That was a part of the dynamic of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You need a trusted person that's not going to screw you over, because what if it starts working and the guy bails?
Right.
Now, the whole dynamic of the plumber and the electrician and the guy that works in the factory and the guy that works at McDonald's all working together. One guy makes it and starts his own business and bounces before you guys all make it. You could screw the whole dynamic up, and you got to find another guy. So you got to trust that everybody's going to follow through, and you got to make sure none of them are idiots. But I found this: the richest, wealthiest, most powerful people aren't the smartest. They're the most ambitious, and they follow through. So you don't need the smartest guy in the room to get the smartest. I met a lot of really stupid idiots that are super smart, that make really dumb choices. I've seen it so many times. Super smart people that make stupid decisions or squander their talents.
I forget who says it, but it's not about how smart you are, but it's about how smart the people that you surround yourself with are. So, you don't need to be the smartest person. You just need to be able to make sure that you hire the smartest people.
Yeah, that's another avenue too. We're more connected than we realize. That's definitely another aspect. But yeah, you got yourself a small network of 5 dudes that won't screw you over, and no one's being stupid on purpose, and everybody's trying their best and striving for them. I don't see how 10 jobs, full-time jobs, couldn't turn everybody into millionaires. I think 5 years, easy. I think it would be nearly impossible to sabotage that outside of someone ruining it in the inside. From the outside, it would be
especially if you're investing it too, and if you're doing businesses and all that stuff. Yeah, you would assume it would be guaranteed.
Yeah. So I think that's the solution for each young man.
Well, I think even as an individual too, that's what everybody's biggest issue is. They just don't have that ability to sustain that long-term commitment, because all the steps are really easy to lay out, to say, I want to get from here to a successful social media channel, a successful business, whatever. You can plan out the steps. You can see the exact steps you need to take, but it's about being able to follow through with that every single day over a prolonged period of time, despite whatever circumstance you have to go through. And so many people can't do that, because at the very first sign of a bad circumstance is when they bail.
And that was literally the dragon that had all the gold. That one moment, I literally believe that those moments are little dragons with a pile of gold underneath them.
Yeah, 100%.
I really do. There's a sword and a rock right over there. All you got to do is pick it up and go fight, and you're guaranteed to win. I think we were built for that challenge. I think we were built to win. I don't think we were meant to lose.
No.
I don't think
so. We're so capable of things than we realize. It's amazing what the human body is capable of and the human spirit is capable of. But we hold ourselves back, and we're our own worst enemy.
Oh, without doubt. Because if you think about it, right, a couple generations ago, we were walking. Then we went to the airplane. And then from the airplane to the moon, what are we talking? Walking, airplane, moon, I think it was 75 years? 80 years?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah, don't tell me you can't do anything. You can do anything. There's nothing stopping you outside of just the sheer will of saying, this is what I'm committing to. I'm going to do it. The question is, do you have a better strategy?
Yeah, and do you have a better personality too? Like it depends on your ability to be disciplined, and your approach to the method.
I think if you had four other guys, no matter how lacking they are and everything else, if they're dedicated to doing the same thing and making sure you don't stop, I don't think I think it's totally doable, irrelevant of
Oh,
what the idea is. So if everybody had two crappy jobs and everybody had one passion project that they kind of try to push on, didn't play video games and just paid their rent and did everything they had to do, I think it would be unstoppable. I think it's an unstoppable variable that no one's taking advantage of. There's so many more, and the housing market's getting outrageous. And the more you wait to do this, the harder it gets. It's not like it's just going to get easier.
yeah. Now with the direction it seems like it's going, it seems like it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets a little bit better.
You're assuming it'll ever get better.
Yeah,
You're making a huge assumption. Okay, a great thing. Oh man, we don't have enough time.
optimistic.
Yeah, we don't have enough time. Austin, man, I appreciate you. I would love to do another 45 minutes, but I don't know if everybody's going to listen to us talk for 3 hours.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
On that note, I think you're very creative. I think you have a lot of potential. I think you can. I would pursue the podcast a little bit. I definitely wouldn't stop with the video. The video stuff was great, man. The UFC thing. I think there's a plethora of things out there that you haven't even touched yet that you need to jump on. And if you ever
Thank
want
you.
any motivation, you ever want me to tell you what I had to struggle with, I'll be happy to help in any way, shape, or form. You want me to come on your podcast so you can get a second episode, I'll be happy to do that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man. If you want to plug away anything, you got 1 minute, man. Go ahead and say whatever you want for your social media.
No, I'm all good. I got to get going anyways.
All right. You have a great day, man. I'll let you know when
I
this is
appreciate
published.
it. You have a great day. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Yep.